Well, friends of Mundo Maldini, here we are completely stopped at a red traffic light, exactly like Manchester City is stopped, because Manchester City is absolutely halted. It's 7 matches, of which in the last 7 matches there are 6 losses, 1 draw in the Champions, 6 losses, 4 losses in the Premier. It's incredible. They are losing their chances of winning the league. Yesterday they lost against Liverpool. You have a video of that match between Liverpool and Manchester City. I commented on the match for Movistar, and what we are going to do is the notes, not just the notes for Premier matches, but I feel like doing the notes for Liverpool and Manchester City in this tremendous match that was a spectacle from Liverpool, especially in the Premier. Right, let's go. Well guys, you already know that Mundo Maldini sponsors the city of Ceuta, which is amazing. It's a wonder. You really have to come visit it. And I am in a very important museum. Now we will talk about the match, of course, which is necropolis from the 4th century, from the Byzantine era. Here we have some of the remains of how people lived back then. But in this museum, which I already say is amazing, it's impressive, we have many more things. We can see the different civilizations that have passed through Ceuta. You will see it in other videos, just as football is often played in different ways. We are going to analyze what today's match has been, but really you have to visit Ceuta. That's how it is. Well, let's go, friends of the Maldini world. You already know that this video will also be translated. The artificial intelligence on the global channel, the Maldini global world, both into Arabic and English. You will have it in both Arabic and English. It's going quite well, little by little, logically. I am leaving for Saudi Arabia in January, and there I am going to focus a lot on the videos in Arabic, of course, and I will talk to many Arab friends there, journalists, so they can promote the channel. I was also already promoting it in England, France, and the USA. Anyway, by the way, we will talk one day about the MLS, because what a tournament Riqui Puig is having with the Galaxy. Spectacular tournament by Riqui Puig. It is talked about little, certainly less than what Riqui Puig deserves. Let's see if he plays in the final, because the other day he assisted the goal. Anyway, we are not going to talk about the MLS, which I am quite enjoying, but rather we are going to talk about this match, Liverpool versus Manchester City. Let's start with Kelleher, the goalkeeper who is replacing Alisson. He did very well. He didn't have many interventions, but he saved a shot from Kevin De Bruyne that could have been on January 2nd, which would have at least given Manchester City a chance in the final stretch of the match. I am going to give him a 7.5. That example also didn't have many more interventions, but a 7.5. Why choose Arnold? Let's see. The assist for the first goal is spectacular. The penultimate pass, the through ball for Salah. And then the assist to Gakpo is what Arnold is about, who is a player with exquisite ball striking. Spectacular Arnold. It is true that defensively, when Duco came in during the second half, it was much harder for him, and they had to substitute him, but I am going to give Arnold, despite everything, despite those defensive problems, a 7.5. as well. 7.5 for Arnold. Let's talk about Virgil van Dijk. An impressive match from Van Dijk. Sevrade makes a mistake in that play I was telling you about with Kevin De Bruyne in the final stretch, but he was impenetrable. He was like a player from San Lorenzo in the 40s, called the Broken Bridge, because no one could get through there. It was a broken bridge, literally. Van Dijk, no one passed through there. Spectacular match from Van Dijk. Let's see. Because of that mistake he made, I am not going to give him an outstanding grade. I will leave him at 8.5. He was close to a nearly perfect match, but I will leave Virgil van Dijk at 8.5. Let's talk about Joe Gomez, who came in for Konaté's injury. That injury that occurred in the last minute of the match against Madrid the other day. Well, he wasn't at Van Dijk's level, but he did quite well. I will give him a 7. A 7 for Joe Gomez. Andrew Robertson, who I often have the habit of calling John Robertson. Bad habit, of course, but do you know why? Because John Robertson was that Scottish player who scored the goal with Nottingham Forest that gave the European Cup to Hamburg in 1980. So we are talking about football from my adolescence, so it often sticks in your head. And I sometimes say John Robertson, but it is obviously Andrew Robertson. He was quite good in attack, played very well, and got forward several times. Going to give him a 7 for the good Andrew Robertson. Let's talk about Ryan Gravenberg. What a season Ryan Gravenberg is having. He has managed to bring back the best Gravenberg. Great match. Not at the level of the match he had against Real Madrid, but he had a great game. Gravenberg managing the midfield very well, recovering possession, applying pressure quite a bit. An 8.5 for the good Ryan Gravenberg, who is in spectacular form. McAllister was good, but of course he wasn't at the level of the match against Real Madrid, but he was also quite good. There were moments when Manchester City had more ball control, and during those times it was logically a bit harder for McAllister to appear. For me, a 7.5 for McAllister. 7.5 for McAllister, and I think it's a good rating for the Argentine, who is also at a very high level. Soboslai, the Hungarian, had a good game as well. He was one of the new elements Let's say he was the unexpected change, along with another unexpected change of leaving Darwin Núñez out, which we will discuss now. Szoboszlai, who didn't play instead of Carthage-Jones, I think he was aware that Liverpool was going to have quite a few phases of dominance. And in that dominance of Liverpool, a player like Szoboszlai, who handles the ball very well and has a great long-range shot, was good. He wasn't brilliant, but he was quite good. For me, a 7.5 for Szoboszlai as well. Liverpool was much superior from a collective standpoint to Manchester City. Mohamed Salah. Great game from Mohamed Salah. I've seen better games from him. But still, he obviously leaves with a goal. It's from a penalty, but a goal. And the assist for Gakpo's goal. That is to say, in a match that you win 2-0, he scores a goal and provides the assist for the other goal. It's not easy to ask for much more from Salah. But it is also true that he missed an incredible one-on-one chance that went over, which is not normal for Mohamed Salah to miss. Still, I'm going to give him a 9, since in the end, it's 1 goal and 1 assist. A 9 for Mohamed Salah. The great game of Mohamed Salah, but I've seen better games from Salah. He is having a spectacular season. Gakpo, who played on the left, scored the first goal from Salah's assist. A very good game from Gakpo as well. A player very much recovered for the cause thanks to Slot. He has improved a lot with Slot's arrival. I'm going to give Gakpo an 8. An 8 for Gakpo, and then Luis Diaz, who played on the side. Sorry, he didn't play on the right side. He played as a centre forward, a position he had played in against, for example, Bayer Leverkusen. A position in which he had played many minutes against Real Madrid, a position that suits him well. I think Slot was also aware that when City was going to dominate, he needed very fast players. 2001. So, of course, he brought in 3 bullets, Gakpo, Luis Diaz, and Mohamed Salah. But it was a good game for Luis Diaz, who then caused the penalty for the 2-0. 8.5 for Luis Diaz. He ended up playing on the left side when Darwin Núñez came in. Talk about the substitutes. The first one, Darwin Núñez. I mentioned it during the Movistar broadcast that it was evident he was going to come in to work a lot without the ball at the moment when Manchester City was dominating the most. And he did. Moreover, it helped. His pressure is what led to the ball recovery that eventually resulted in the penalty for the 2-0. A 7.5 for Darwin Núñez. Kwanzaa, who came in to play as a right back to stop Doku, also did well. 7.5. And then Carty-Jones and Elliott, I won't rate them because they played very few minutes. And what Slot doing is impressive. I think it's hard not to agree that it is the most informed team at the moment. I'm not saying it's the best, because the best, well, there are teams that might have better squads. But the team that is playing the best, without a doubt, for me right now is Liverpool. Premier League leader, outstanding. Leader of the Champions League, because it is a league as such, not just outstanding, but extremely outstanding. They have won all their matches, the only one to have done so. You can't ask for more from this Liverpool. And yesterday, Slot was very good, also playing very well, in all possible aspects. When he dominates, when he is in control, Slot is spectacular. A 9 for Slot, for me, a 9 for Slot. Let's go with Ortega. Let's go with City now. Ortega. Well, he wasn't bad. Ortega had several good interventions. I'm going to give Ortega a 7.5. I think he did quite well despite the 2 goals. He couldn't do absolutely anything on the 2 goals. Walker, very weak match from Walker. I see him in very poor physical condition. See him contributing very little to the team, to be honest. Walker barely arrived in attack. Very little participation. Defensively, he was hurt a lot. A 3 for Walker. And Kanji, who got booked quite early. Then he held on in the match, but was not good at all. It's just that Liverpool overwhelmed him permanently. He was overwhelmed permanently. For me, Kanji deserves a 4. A 4 for Kanji. Ruben Diaz. I'm going to give Ruben Diaz just enough. A bare 5. As I used to say when I was a student, I got a bare 5. Well, it's not bad. I wasn't a bad student. I got quite good grades, but not outstanding ones like honors. Not at all. But I was a good student. That's the reality. The other day a teacher called me. I hadn't seen him in about 20 years, man, my teacher, and he told me he was living in Morocco and that people in Morocco are completely crazy about Mundo, Maldini and me and such. He told me, you can't imagine how well they know you here in Morocco. I don't know how he got my phone number, but he called me Mr. Francisco. Might be watching this video. Anyway, Ruben Diaz is talking. I've lost my train of thought. Ruben Diaz is talking. No, a 5 for Ruben Diaz. For what? What? He came in through Guardiola, who is going through a tough time. Certainly Guardiola for what? I'm going to give him a 4.5. Failing? Failing for what? Gundogan, very weak match. Gundogan's match that he couldn't finish, not at all. Pep Guardiola had to take him out because he couldn't. Without the ball, he's very bad. With the ball, somewhat better, logically, but without the ball, very bad. Gundogan. I just got lost. We're around the area of our reps from our studios because we're going to do it from Desperados, and I just got lost, man. It is what it is, but now I'm turning around and I'll find a place that looks familiar. Gundogan is not sounding much. The Gundogan from last season is not sounding much at all. It's not what Manchester City expected. 3 for Gundogan. Rico Luis, who played a bit more like a schoolboy on the right wing, because in the end, he had no choice but to drop Bernardo Silva very deep, whom I will talk about now. A very weak match. Rico Luis, 4.5 for Rico Luis. Rico Luis didn't do much either. Liverpool was very superior. I mentioned Bernardo Silva several times during the Movistar broadcast. The issue is that having to play without Rodri and without Kevin De Bruyne, who later came in at the end but was injured, you ultimately have to find a way to compensate for that. One way is to push Bernardo Silva further back, which takes him away from the area and harms him a lot. Ebra's match, which I think at least he tried permanently, he made a constant effort. I will give Bernardo Silva a 6.5. 6.5 for Bernardo Silva. Mateus Nunes, very bad. I just don't. He is a player that doesn't fully convince me, and especially I don't quite understand why he places Mateus Nunes on the left side, but that's how he was playing when he came in. But practically nothing. Notice that Guardiola starts without a winger, ends up playing with 3 so we can see a bit. Doesn't find the team at all. Pep Guardiola, Mateus Nunes, a 3 as well, a clear fail. Phil Foden, very little in the match, played inside, but very little in the match, very little participation. He is not even a shadow of the Phil Foden we saw last season, who was chosen the best player. In the Premier, a 3.5 at most for Phil Foden. And Erling Braut Haaland, what to say about a player who hardly touches the ball? It's as if he didn't. Haaland played as any other forward could have played, because he practically didn't appear at all. A 2 for Haaland. It's that he practically didn't have. It's also true that it's not his fault, but he hardly had any appearances in the match. A 2 for Haaland, and then the substitutes, Jeremy Doku. It's true that he broke through quite a bit. He came in to try to break through again and again. He tried again and again. He hardly got past even once, but at least did what Pep Guardiola asked of him. I'm going to give Doku a flat 5. Savinho came in, but I didn't see him. I didn't notice him. I know he came in because they showed it to us in the broadcast. Savinho has entered, but I think he didn't touch the ball at all. A 3 for Savinho. Practically nothing from Savinho. Jack Grealish, who came in to play inside in the very final stretch, also gets a failing grade. A 3.5 for Jack Grealish. Kevin De Bruyne had the chance to make it 2-0 and he missed it in a 1-on-1, and not much more. It's evident that he is very injured, because if you don't have Rodri, if you don't have Kovacic, and you don't put Kevin De Bruyne against Liverpool when the league is really on, well, it's because he is in very bad shape. And obviously, he is in very bad shape. So, for Kevin De Bruyne, a 3.5 as well. And we finish with Pep Guardiola. Have you seen those gestures he makes? Let's see the gestures at the end when they are telling you that you are going to be fired the next day. He said he didn't expect this from Anfield, so he made a gesture with the 6 titles he has won in the Premier, but we shouldn't give it more importance, right? It's not a big deal. But well, he could have saved it, to be honest. He could have saved it. But well, I'm not going to criticize Pep Guardiola too much for that, honestly. But of course, his approach is also true that I think is the best. But with the absences he has, without Rodri, without Kovacic, with De Bruyne injured, it is true that it was very noticeable. Then with the changes he doesn't have, he can't find the team. I already said, starting without wingers and ending with 3. Pep Guardiola can't find the team, and there's no way. Therefore, well, he will get a 4 for Pep Guardiola in this match. A 4 for Pep Guardiola. Friends of Mundo Maldini, I got lost, but I will find myself. I think I more or less know where I am now. Here to the right? More or less, since I'm going around the same area. It's a bit like what Guardiola does. He turns things over in his head to see how he can find the solution, and he doesn't quite find it. I'm going around here and I just found the solution, which is this next one, right? To the right? Right. The solution is the next one to the right. It's much easier than what Guardiola has. I'm not lying to you. A hug. Bye.